Good morning. The Committee of the Whole is called to order. Due to a lack of quorum, we will continue recess until we reach a quorum. Thank you, and for Senator Guåhan and Senator Canatha for joining me this morning. Thank you. We're back to recess. The Committee of the Whole is called to order. We have a quorum. My colleagues, we're on page 96. There are no amendments in 96. Are there any comments for Medical Referral Assistance Office? If not, page 96 is closed. We are now on page 97, Guam Ethics Commission. Are there any comments? Yes, Senator Tello, you have comments for 97?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, there was a quite bit of an increase to the Guam Ethics Commission compared to FY23. In FY23, there was 355,275. Right now, we have them at 531,000. Can you please explain?
Yes, I'll have OB explain that.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Senator. The increase for the Guam Ethics Commission basically represents 49,000 for the GPP, the recruitment of 2 ethics investigation and compliance officer, then the increase in contractual costs for certified mail and ethics campaign and posting of public notices. We were told that what the Ethics Commission is trying to do is they're trying to establish the training for I guess for all agencies, and what we're told is that they need at least 1 or 2 staff in order to do that effectively and completely. So that's what we took into consideration when we came up with the ceiling, and nothing more than that.
So basically, we are creating more jobs at the Guam Ethics Commission.
Yes, if I heard you right, yes, that's what we're trying to do.
And these positions are what again?
I'm sorry?
These new positions are what again?
Yes.
What positions are they?
Give me a second, I'll get you the titles.
And also, Steve, how many are employed with the 355,000 that we appropriated in FY23? How many people are actually employed at the Guam Ethics Commission utilizing that 355,000?
Okay, Senator, give me a moment, I'll pull out the department's budget.
But what are their positions?
You said administrative officer?
Like admin assistant, so this is what it is. It's for an admin assistant and an ethics investigation compliance officer.
Can you make it bigger? Okay, Senator, the position being requested right now is for an admin administrative assistant in lieu of an ethics program coordinator, and the other one is an ethics investigator and compliance officer 1.
They already got this person,
Okay.
so this one's cut.
So the administrative assistant is currently in progress. It's being recruited.
Administrator assistant?
Administrative,
assistant?
yes.
So this is like an assistant to the director, right?
Not necessarily the director, Senator. Administrative assistant basically is a support staff to help the program in whatever capacity they put the position in. And it's currently in progress of being recruited. Or I'm sorry, I've been told their person is currently on board.
Currently. Yes. Okay, so there is total that are now employed at the Guam Ethics Commission, a total of how many? I'm sorry, say that again.
There's a total of 4 positions.
Okay, so 4 positions right now for the Guam Ethics Commission, which was covering their salaries at $355,275, that's 4 positions, that was FY23. And now they want to add 2 more positions? Is that correct? I just wanted to verify.
Technically, Senator, if you look at it, because there's already 1 on board, so we consider that as when we were doing the budget, basically was a vacant position. But that position basically is filled as of today. And they are currently in the process of recruiting the ethics investigator. So there'll be a total of...
So the increase, okay, so let me get this straight, Steve. They went ahead and hired a 4th individual, not knowing their budget's going to be increased. They went ahead and hired somebody. So if we didn't have that 4 position that you just said they just hired, and it's 3 positions, why don't I just ask you again, real simple, don't color it, just give it to me straight, you know. There are 3 or 4 positions right now at the Guam Ethics Commission that are being funded by the general fund. How many positions right today? Just tell me, 3, 4, 2, 1, what?
Yeah. Currently, Senator, there are 5 positions within the FY23 staffing pattern. Of the five, 3 are actually 4 basically are filled, technically are filled, and 1 is in the process of being filled.
Wow, that many people in the Ethics Commission? What do we do? Keep growing this commission? We've gone from 300,000 to 500,000, and now they want to add, okay, so there was 5 positions, 4 have been filled, 1 just filled to make it 5th, and now they want additional how many more positions? How many more positions are they asking for, Steve?
In FY24?
Yes.
Based on the staffing pattern, they're not asking for any other additional position. They just want to fill the positions they have, which is 5.
Wow. Didn't they even... Okay, so, Mr. Chair, I'd like to bookmark this particular section here, Mr. Chair, because, you know, it's one thing that we're here today trying to fund these agencies that have been short for many years. You know, we haven't been able to fund some of these agencies. But here we are today growing agencies, adding more positions. How are we going to sustain this? That's my concern. The Ethics Commission wasn't supposed to be its own, you know, a whole brand new department and agency as big as this. I think the most it was only supposed to have 3 people. 3 individuals. They have a board that comes to the Ethics Commission, you know, that's appointed. They sit, they listen to cases. I mean, my goodness. The Post Commission. The Post Commission has quite a bit of job responsibilities throughout the year, providing certificates too as well. And their budget has only been $70,000 plus a year. And now we're growing this. I mean, I know the importance of it, something that hasn't been in play for many years. But I'd like to bookmark this position, I mean, this area here on the Guam Ethics Commission, because I think people are starting to be trigger happy when it comes to hiring people and not really having the funding to do it.
Senator, if I can just reiterate, in the FY23, they are authorized 5 FTEs. They are in the process of trying to fill these positions as they go along. They are not asking for any additional position in FY24. I just want to make that clear.
No, but you're asking for a whole lot more money, and that's very clear.
My understanding, Senator, the reason
Almost
why...
$200,000 more, Steve. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, again.
I
okay,
didn't ask
I'll
any
leave it at
questions,
that.
Steve. Thank you so much. I'll bookmark this.
All right, at this point, this, page 97 is bookmarked. My colleagues, we have completed chapter 5, but we're going to go back to the bookmarks in chapter 5. Reminder, normally we won't accept any more amendments, even though it's bookmarked, because it's only open for discussion. No, we're not going to recess the prayer amendments. Everyone should have been ready for this. Well, at this point, we're now going back to the bookmarks. And the bookmarks that we have is on page 75, Senator Paris. I'd like to ask my colleagues, please check your phones, put it on vibrate, just so it doesn't get recorded that there's a ring. We're on page 75. At this point, we're at, I think that's EPA. So being at EPA, Senator Paris, you have your 2 amendments.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So the first amendment I'd like to proffer is lines 17 to 19, page 75. It reads, 2, closure, monitoring, and opening of islands landfills. The sum of $202,992 is appropriated from the Solid Waste Operations Fund to GIPA for fiscal year 2024. The purpose of the appropriation is to fund the cost of duties and responsibilities of GIPA that are related to the closure, monitoring, and opening of the island's landfills. This appropriation shall not be transferred or used for any other purposes. Funds appropriated to GIPA from Solid Waste Operations Fund Supra and not expended during fiscal year 2024 shall revert back to the Solid Waste Operations Fund. Okay, so the purpose of this amendment was to address a request by Guam Solid Waste Authority to basically retain the 200-some thousand plus that has been appropriated to Guam EPA for the closure of landfills. And so this amendment has been in our budget bill for historically because Guam Solid Waste Authority was under receivership. And so now that they are semi-autonomous, they have been able to take control of their finances so that they're really looking for ways to cut cost. And so they believe that they can use this money more frugally in regards to closure and opening of landfills. Under the leadership of the board of directors, Gail, as well as the GM, Irvin Slike. And so in my talks with Guam EPA, they are in support of this. In fact, last year they did not use the money. The money was used previously to the closure of the Navy landfill as well as Air Force landfills. And so they haven't been using it since that time, but the money has been appropriated to Guam EPA. It's a non-lapsing fund from what I understand, and so they are in support of, should they not use the funds, that they can, that Guam Solid Waste should be able to continue to use the funds, which is the money actually from the Solid Waste Operations Fund it comes from the tipping fees, and so it rightfully should stay with Guam Solid Waste, who is working very hard to become fiscally and financially financially above board to ensure that they stay out of receivership and ensure the success of Guam Solid Waste Authority. So again, it's supported by both Guam EPA and Guam Solid Waste, and I ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Burris. Does anyone like to comment to this? There being none, would you like to close, or I'll just ask for it? Okay, are there any objection to this amendment? There being none, motion passes. Ma'am, you have another amendment. It's also still on page 75 to add a new subsection.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this amendment is page 75 to add a new subsection to section R. It reads, Recycling Revolving Fund. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the sum of $1,500,000 is appropriate from the Recycling Revolving Fund to the Mayor's Council of Guam for the purposes of the disposal and removal of materials and zero waste initiatives in accordance with Article 3, Chapter 51, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated. and Article 3 of Chapter 24, Division 4, Title 22, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations. The Mayor's Council of Guam shall prepare and submit to the Guam Environmental Protection Agency Board of Directors an expenditure plan for the said disposal, removal of materials, and zero waste initiatives in accordance with Article 3, Chapter 51, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated. The Guam EPA Board shall review the expenditure plan no later than 30 days upon receipt of the plan and amend as needed to comply with current statutes. The expenditure plan shall include requirements for proper invoicing, documentation, oversight to ensure procurement regulations are properly followed. The Mayor's Council of Guam shall not expend funds allocated herein prior to the approval of the expenditure plan, and this allocation is not subject to transfer for use for any other purpose for fiscal year 2024. For fiscal year 2024, the Mayor's Council is authorized to expend any prior year appropriations from the Recycling Revolving Fund that are in the Mayor's Council's accounts as of September 30, 2023, provided that such funds are not obligated by purchase orders or contracts for the purpose of disposal or removal of materials in accordance with the purposes set forth in Article 3, Chapter 51, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, and Article 3 of Chapter 24, Division 4, Title 22, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations. Okay, so the purpose of this amendment, so since the passage of the Zero Waste Act, the language in the Zero Waste Act basically removed the Recycling Revolving Fund within the purview of the budget. And so what this amendment does, it would assure the mayors that they are the go-to partner when it comes to the Recycling Revolving Fund to remove our junk vehicles, white goods, tires, all of these things that are the priority list, and then some for the Recycling Revolving Fund. And so this amendment also assures, basically it's a status quo amount from last budget. It also assures that any funds not expended, because as you know, there are still invoices that need to be cleared, and so to assure that the money that they've dedicated to the removal of a lot of these recyclables and out of the public's view can be continued to be used upon clearance from the Board of Directors to ensure that their invoices are good to go. And so a lot of this language actually was basically holdover from last budget, but it's also taken from the law itself, so GCA and GAR, to be absolutely clear that there is accountability measures in this. So I ask for my colleagues' support.
Thank you, Senator Perez. I'm going to ask Steve, OFB, to just comment a little bit on the word appropriate, because it's not in our budget. So the word has to be changed, and I'll have Steve speak to that. And then that should be a simple amendment where don't need to rewrite it, and maybe we can get legal and the clerks to just go ahead and change the word. Steve?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, regarding the language in the proposed amendment, just bear in mind that prior to FY2024's budget, the Recycling Revolving Fund was actually part of the budget every year going back, and we appropriate from it. But recent law that was passed now automatically appropriates all funds in the Recycling Revolving Fund to GEPA. So that being said, we don't appropriate anymore. Well, we did not appropriate out of the Guam Recycling Revolving Fund for FY24. The amendment can still go through if you just change the wording. Don't use, I wouldn't suggest using appropriate, because departments don't appropriate, but they can certainly allocate the resources disposed to them and provide that funding to wherever they feel is appropriate. But technically, the legislature is the only body that can appropriate from any government of Guam funds. But, as far as the control of these funds, it relies on the authorized department and agency to oversee it.
So technically, Senator Perez, allocate would be the appropriate word, and it will still do the same thing, except just change to allocate, unless anyone has any objection to that. Senator Perez, unless you have an objection, we change the word appropriate to allocate, because we don't appropriate from that anymore. It goes to them, so it's just to direct them that they will allocate that fund. Are we good? Would you like a quick recess to make sure?
yeah,
Okay, let's do a
a
quick
recess.
recess at this
Yeah.
point. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. We're back at Senator Parrish's amendment. Ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the recess, and I would defer to OFB for the language change. So instead of appropriated, the word shall be allocated, and allow legal to make technical corrections. So
Okay.
I'd like to amend my amendment, basically.
You're making your amendment. Does anybody have any objection to that amendment so that the clerks will take care of it and word it, shall be allocated? Are there any need for any comments to that? If none, you don't need to close. We'll go ahead and go to the votes. There's no objection to the votes?
Sure, I'd like to call for the vote. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any objection? There being none, motion passes, and the word shall be allocated will be changed. Moving along, we have completed one more. You have one more, right?
Just a comment.
Oh, I apologize. That was the amendment to the amendment. Now, to the amendment as amended, are there any objection? There being none again, motion passes. You won't need to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just actually have a comment or a question for OFB. So in looking at GCA, Guam EPA, all the mandates are located in the health section, so Title 10. And I just maybe would like to request that in future budgets that Guam EPA be placed in the health section. So that would be Chapter 3. Because, you know, the environment is it's interconnected to the health of our people. And I think, you know, raising that awareness would be important.
All right, Senator Parrish, I'll make sure that the OFB, as the chairman, I will make sure that we follow your recommendation, your request. All right?
Thank you.
And that will complete page 75, correct? Now we'll move to, that will make page 75 close. We are now going to go to page 78, which is DPR. DPR, Madam Speaker, you have one amendment. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll take everyone's attention back to page 78. The appropriation for the Department of Parks and Rec is only about $500,000 over last year's appropriation. That, according to OFB, accounts for the GPP or the pay raises. So there wasn't any additional funds appropriated for the maintenance and repair of the public restrooms and pool facilities. And the current appropriation, as it was last year, is $150,000. And I know that we've been hearing, I've been to every hearing that affects this DPR maintenance of their restrooms, because I think it's a huge issue for the community at these parks. And it's one of the few things that our community can do that, you know, we want to encourage to be safe and clean. And I think it's going to help our tourism industry. We've heard of grants to the department, and we've seen some of that, but then the maintenance falls behind again. We've seen some of the tourism attraction money being used for that as well, and then we've seen that also fall behind. So I'm trying to make an amendment to increase this amount, not by much, but I even heard over the weekend from the paddlers that we, Guam, are the host of the Micro Cup for the Paddling Association this year. It's in October. And I said, oh, that'll be great. And they said, no, we need another shower here. There's only one shower at Matapang Beach where all the canoes are. And I go there quite often. The lines to shower on the weekends are silly. IPAO at least has 3 showers, and you know, and they're all functioning. I think it works very nicely. But for that beach, Matapang, being so crowded, I hate to use this word publicly, but it's gross. It's super gross to have only one shower. The drainage is not very good. And I think to give them any kind of money we can find, and I haven't yet been able to find much, but I think we have found I would like to amend this, notwithstanding the rules, to add 126,000 to the 150,000 appropriation. It still only would total 276,709, but I hope my colleagues will support this, and I hope DPR can dedicate that to at least putting a shower and helping the Matapang Beach, because we've got little kids there. They still have pools of water with, that just hold everything gross in them, and people have to walk through them in order to get out of their cars in the parking lot sometimes, all of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Madam Speaker, it's a simple question. Your appropriation is coming from their own funds, general fund, correct? So in other words, the 3,797,000 will be reduced by 126 to put it in section 3.
No. So I'm in section 3, T3, where this is a separate appropriation from the general fund on top. Oh, if I could get a recess, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you get a recess and I'll have OB explain that to you. Okay, thank you. We're in recess at this point. My colleagues, committee's called back to order. We're going to bookmark DPR and we're going to go back to page 97, which is the Ethics Commission, which Madam Speaker has an amendment there, and then we'll settle that before we go back to DPR's bookmark, okay? And I think that this is where the numbers will start to work out. Madam Speaker, we are now at page 97. We'll finish that one, and then we'll go back to, I bookmarked your DPR. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you to my colleagues. So now we're on page 97. This is the appropriation for the Guam Ethics Commission. It's a commission, and it was revived thanks to the law of Senator San Agustin. And the governor then appointed a director and actually staffed this commission. And as my earlier colleague who bookmarked this section, Senator Tello, thank you, pointed out, it's really seeing a significant increase even over the pay raises. So I would just like to reduce this by 126,000 and bring it still would be over its FY23 appropriation, but reduce it by that amount and put that amount into the DPR maintenance and facilities, particularly for the parks restrooms. So that would be the purpose of the de-appropriation here, or the reduction. And it's really not a reduction of their current operations. It's a reduction in the FY24 proposed budget, and this would cover their current operations plus GPP. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Comments? Yes, ma'am. On the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Alice Zeus, good morning. And please know that based on the previous discussion, I probably have no objections to working on finding resources to fixing and needing the resources for DPR, Department of Parks and Recreation, and knowing that we have a lot of children and folks in the community that utilize the place in Matapang. But before we take from an agency that we created and wanted to make sure that that our government was literally following the mission mandates for all of Guam, I maybe even would like to see, I understand that ethics is out there, and there was a reason why last fiscal year we had wanted to make sure that the Guam Ethics Commission was fully staffed, making sure that they had the proper positions in order to literally follow through in all the complaints, all the ethics complaints that were already filed, and making sure that the investigators and other positions that were needed in order to do their mission mandate that were in place. And I also understood that this body literally created all of that. So really, before we take money away from them, even knowing that this term they may have had this budget, they have an increase, I want to make sure that we're not taking from Peter to pay Paul to do what's right when we ourselves created the Ethics Commission for a specific purpose. And that was for true accountability, transparency, and making sure that every government of Guam worker was held to that standard. And now we're going to take it away from them. On one hand, we're saying we're going to give you the resources you need to do all the investigative work and make sure nobody's committing crimes, blue-collar crimes and all that. And then on the other hand, we say, oh, we're going to take it away from you because we're going to give it to somebody else who needs it more. So please, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want a motion to call the Ethics Commission in and explain why there was an increase, or explain why the resources were needed and the positions, because I'd like a clarification before I saying, okay, I want to support the author's amendment for Parks and Recs, but I don't want to take away from what we wanted to make sure that we created this Ethics Commission to make sure that everything was accountable and transparent. So please, a motion to call them in, or what have you.
I think there's a motion to bring in the Ethics Commission, and I prefer not to, because I don't want to turn our budget discussion into a public hearing. Okay, so I'm just trying to avoid that, unless this body wants the Ethics Commission Director's here.
Bring him in.
He's willing to
On a
come
point
in.
of information, Mr. Chair, when we're looking at decreasing one agency based on what has been provided by your office and finance and on budgeting, and if there's a decrease that I'm not familiar of and why we're taking it from them, then I'd like to better understand what the positions are for, what is needed, why it's needed, the who, what, why, where, whens.
Understood.
Because I don't want to take from Peter to work with Paul.
Understood.
Point of information, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may. Last fiscal year, FY23, which we are currently in right now, the Ethics Commission was given $555,275 to live within their means. This budget has increased it to 531,080. So I just wanted to mention that, you know, taking away, there's no taking away here. This is increasing an agency's budget.
Mr. Chair, if I may then ask, I'd like to ask OFB for a complete, the executive director, for a complete delineation on every position and every resource and what has changed from last fiscal year and this fiscal year, and the exact amount for the funding that's going to be utilized. That's what I will ask for.
Okay.
Because I know I'm not going to get the votes, but I just want to make sure that I don't take away from the Ethics Committee the one commission that everybody said that they needed, because we in the government of Guam are not transparent or doing all these political shenanigans. And then we're going to take it away from them? Sir, that's a humble
understand.
request.
I understand. I'm the oversight chair
Mr. Chair?
also. But
Mr. Chair?
yes,
I just had a point of information.
You have a point?
The Vice had said the director is outside in the hallway, and
Yes,
just
he
to
is.
provide a little more information, as he had messaged me that the reason why their budget increase was because they are trying to classify their unclassified staff, and that the pay grades had increased. So that could be what's going on, sir.
yes, understood.
Thank you.
I know that Senator Fisher, you had your hand up, but we're going to go ahead and have OB provide that information, and then we can move from there. Okay? OB will go into details. As much as we're not trying to do that, because everybody should be looking at their own budget, but OB will do the best they can. Thank you.
Okay, Senator, thank you. And I'll start out with the total appropriation for FY23. Down. It's $355,275. That is what's in the FY23 Appropriation Act. Of that amount, $239,567 is to fund 3 positions currently in the Commission. We have, I believe, $12,487 for travel. I believe also it includes local mileage reimbursement. We have contractual services of $30,948. We have office rent of $16,606. We have supplies and materials of $1,000. And we have miscellaneous of $5,171. There is nothing allocated for utilities. So that in total is $355,275. Okay? Going into the FY24 budget requests, a total amount of $371,950 is requested to fund 5 positions. Currently, of the 5, 3 are filled. I am told that the 4th one is actually coming on board, if not on board already, and they are in the process of trying to fill the 5th position. Their travel costs is status quo from FY23 at $12,750. The contractual service is slightly went up by $14,000 to $44,956. Their office space rental is $65,993. Supplies and materials is $16,500. Miscellaneous is $27,832. To sum total operational costs at $168,031. They are requesting this year for cost to cover the cost of telephone, which is $4,116, for a grand total of $544,097. The sum or the variance between FY23 and FY24 is $188,822. And compared the ceiling in the amount elected in the bill, it is about $13,017 lower than the governor's request.
Can I ask Steve, what is the operational cost again?
Are you talking current year, Senator?
The current operational cost.
Current operational cost right now is $115,999, $599.
Okay, that's the current, but how much have they set aside in FY23 to purchase? Yeah. Wait, excuse me. We're going to take a short recess. We're back from recess. I'm going to turn it over to Steve from OFB to explain something for us.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, I think there was a little confusion in the presentation and everybody's thought of what the increase was for the Guam Ethics Commission. I just got clarification from the ethics director, and he indicated that in the current FY23 staffing pattern, which again is something that we have a variance in our presentation, but there is and there was authorized 5 positions that were funded in FY23. Of the 5 positions, 1 became vacant during the earlier part of this year. That position remains vacant and is in the process of trying to be recruited for. The other position that they had was investigative ethics program investigator was converted to an administrative assistant in lieu of that investigator position. So that position, the administrative position, is not a new position. It's just changing in title. The increase of $111,000 over the FY23 versus the FY24 consists of approximately $42,000 in the adjustment in pay grade for the investigator compliance officer that was approved by Department of Administration. That amounted to approximately $21,000 per employee, which went from letter K to letter N, which represents, again, about a $21,000 per employee, and there's 2 of them. This, you add on to the 45% of friends benefits that come with the position title, will roughly about almost 80, almost 90,000. You throw in the GPP amount that they are due for FY24, would almost come out to exactly $111,000, which represents the increase in the Ethics Commission's budget. Now, this is only for personnel. They are also asking increases in operation, simply because I believe when they are now located in a new office, I believe over at GCIC building, which of course the rent went up tremendously from I believe either the first couple of months they're there for this fiscal year, but to fund the rent for the whole year is a substantial amount from what they're paying this year. And the only other thing I believe they did not request for utilities this year, but they are now requesting for about $4,200 for the cost of telephone. So that represents basically the difference you see in the FY23 approved level versus the FY24 requested level.
Okay, Vice Speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So maybe my question based on that presentation is to the author, what does the
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry.
specifically?
I'm sorry. I did notice that your time was up.
No, was it up?
Yeah.
I didn't.
No, before we broke, you were speaking, and your time was up, actually. So it was brought to my attention your time was up. So, sorry, Madam Speaker. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to recess until lunch. We'll be back here at 2 p.m., okay? We'll recess till lunch, 2 p.m.